So I want, like, when I got into this hobby, I really want like a set of earphones that actually bring me back to the location or where I experienced it. Like for the movies, I want to feel like the soundtrack. I want to listen to the soundtrack as if I'm back there. First Light is actually the embodiment of that. That's its singular purpose, nothing else.
Now this is probably going to be my craziest video so far in terms of reviewing stuff, because I don't think in my life ever that I get the chance to review something as outrageous as this. This, my friends, is the Rossi&Wing's First Light. Its first ever model from the company, as well as literally just throwing out the flagship first. This thing costs 6,000 US dollars for the standard edition and 7.7K for the founders edition. How does this thing actually sound? Is it worth the price point? Who is it for? Let's talk about it. Now, before we continue, this is going to be a 4-part video where I'm going to review all the 4 IEMs that are being released by Rossi&Wing. Today, we're going to be doing the first IEM release, which is its flagship, and we will be reviewing a few more. And these will be basically, the sneak peeks. So please subscribe and leave a comment. Just, have a chat with me. I will reply to every single comment. And for people who haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And with all that being said, let's get on with the video. Definitely a very big shout out to our friend Zephon, which is the founder of R&W. He is a very good friend of ours, but regardless, he also wants very honest and constructive criticisms. So with all that being said, this is going to be an honest review as always. All thoughts and opinions are of my own. Now, when we're talking about Summit 5 at this point, which honestly for 2025, it's more of a norm. The longer you can stay in this hobby and the deeper the rabbit hole that you go, you do start to realize that even though, yes, we do agree stuff like these are definitely within the realms of, values of diminishing returns, there definitely are a few that sticks out very special. And this is one of them. Now, as for Rossi&Wing's philosophy as to how this thing is tangible at this point, is because of the ode to his personal philosophy for music and basically to himself. I basically had a chat with him when I was in Taiwan, and y'all could just look at the video in my channel. The summary of the story is that he used to go to concert halls when he was a kid, and he wanted to recreate that experience right here. When we're talking about a flagship, when we're talking about Summit 5, when we're talking about the final few percent that you're trying to achieve, how does this thing actually stand out? Now, same as the Z1R video, when we're talking about flagships, I personally want to prioritize talking about technicalities first, which also coincidentally is the first thing that actually caught me off guard. This thing is very reminiscent of the Elysian X, but not quite the same. Elysian X, I remember, had a more 3D holographic type of soundstage. This thing is literally what he describes. He said that this thing is trying to mimic the fact that you are sitting in a concert hall or an auditorium. Coincidentally, I haven't confirmed this with Zephon, but I'm pretty sure, because when you go to this website, you can see the code is IEA, which I think stands for in-ear auditorium. And there's also another saying, they basically want hi-fi speakers in your ears. Basically, this all mimics hi-fi system soundstage, which is very open, very diffuse. But again, going back to the soundstage, this thing is very, very specific, where you feel like you're in a finite room, but at the same time, it's very big. And the finite room analogy is referring to the amount of reverb that comes back at you. It comes back at you as a form of accompanying overtones, accompanying harmonics, which just fills up the ambience very, very nicely. The best way that I could describe this is, imagine that you are literally at a concert hall right now at the moment. Every single place around you is dark other than the front of the stage. Being a concert hall, they will have very warm yellow lights, and the yellow lights just slowly radiate throughout the surroundings. As you can see, it slowly creates a gradient into the black void beside you and behind you. It feels very subtle. It feels very warm. It feels very welcoming. And I would say that is the most significant thing that I could feel during the first impressions. Other than that, I don't think I have anything extra to say about imaging, separation. Those are very accurate. Dynamics overall are also very much on par. You can listen to them on very low volumes but still get everything out of it. Everything still sounds very fluidative. Everything still sounds very, very harmonious. And last but not least, the detail retrieval. Micro details are being emphasized, and I would say, what's the word? It's not exaggerated, but basically being brought front to the point where it sounds more like macro details. All those very small nuances are literally just being boosted up and being shown to you as it is. Everything is being presented in a very balanced and fair way, where every small detail is being emphasized as large as possible, but not to the point where it's I would say too crowded. Even on very busy tracks, this thing handles everything like a beast. Like I could sleep on very busy tracks. But yeah, basically as a small wrap up for the technicalities part, the soundstage is just phenomenal. I have no comments about it. It's very special. It's the first that I've ever heard before in my life. Yeah. Okay, for the config, this thing right here is rocking a 6 dBAA, which is a dual balance armature array, as well as a 10mm rear EST-DD. Basically what that means is that it is combining an EST and a DD together. So what that basically gives you is the fact that it's going to have EST levels of frequencies, but also with the dynamicness of a DD. Specifically when you're talking about electrostats, maybe sometimes the low end from the low frequencies, all of those might falter a little bit. But having another DD in combination will basically boost it up. And with its own custom CMB 3+1 crossover system, all of the frequencies throughout the spectrum will be filled accordingly. But there is one little con that I want to preface in terms of this config. Because again, once you heard the name EST, you definitely need to understand that this thing requires a lot of power. Me personally, I am using my Kensei, and before I had the chance to use my friend's standalone amp, I don't really have a problem with it. I'm just using my Kensei as it is. Everything sounds amazing for the tuning. But once I plugged it in something that's a little bit more beefy, I do realize a very significant issue that I had. Lower mids and mid bass are definitely lacking if I'm using the Kensei. Not lacking to the point where it's Harman, but basically you can feel like it's not as pushed up. It's not as amplified as something that could give it more juice. It basically went something along the lines of a milder V-shape to a stronger V-shape on the low end. But in all honesty, I'm still using my Kensei daily, so the slight sluggishness and the slight decrease in the lower and mid bass doesn't really affect me, because at the end of the day, my preference is more towards having less bass. The nice thing is that the sub bass is not affected. The sub bass is still very rumbly, the sub bass is still very textured, and I would say in terms of the bass, sub bass really is something else, and it's hitting things in my eardrums that I don't feel before. And in regards to what I said about the lower and the mid bass, the fact that this thing is a mild V-shape IEM and it has some slight warm tonality to it on the low end, I will feel like it's alright, because it garners some levels of relaxation, so that it's more of a laid-back tuning in that sense. Everything is very resolving, everything is very amazing. And oh yeah, before we continue, one keyword. What the fuck? I didn't call for you, Siri. Okay, one more thing I just remembered. What I'm going to talk about right now, basically just remember it for the rest of the video. There's going to be two keywords: realistic and accurate. These two are definitely the best keywords that I could use to mention every single thing throughout. Talking back about the bass, I would say overall, due to the fact that, like I mentioned, the technicalities, the soundstage, the reverb of everything, bass notes also have their own harmonic overtones, and having that accompanying bass notes, bass licks, overall just makes, all of your tracks having another level of dimensionality. It has another level of depth. It makes everything sounds even more well packaged. But yeah, going on to the next part, which is my favorite part, vocals. Overall, everything sounds very organic. ever so slightly on the warmish side. But for me, I like the fact that everything is thick. Everything has enough body. But for some people, they might say that it has slightly too much body, which I might disagree. Having enough body definitely gives you that amount of beefiness, that amount of immersiveness that you probably need. Positioning of the vocalist is honestly quite forward, which I personally like. And the emotions that it could give, the soul that it could give, just allows another level of intimacy from the vocalist. And oh yeah, this is just one very specific thing that I want to mention, because this is the standard version and this is paired with the light bringer cable, the yellow cable. Expect this to have a slightly more forward vocal as compared to the other cable from the Founders Edition, the Luminox cable. That thing will be the opposite of this. That thing will make the vocalist have a very slight step back, and everyone from the instrument parts will be more brought forward. But yeah, going on to the instruments, what more can I say? Realistic, accurate. The fact that, like I said, because of the technicalities that this thing gives, every single instruments from pianos, every single instruments like keys, strings, horns, all of those just has another level of analogness to it. You could feel the piano keys when people are pressing on it. It has that level of weight. You could visualize the amount of emotions that everybody is trying to give to the instrument. I think another best word to describe everything is that it sounds very orchestral. I would want to use live, but live doesn't really sound that accurate yet, because live is just more like you're in a pub. This thing sounds like you're in a grand ballroom where people are performing very, very grandiose things. And like I say just now, for the micro details, it is being, yes, I found the word, extrapolated. It's been extrapolated to sound like macro details, and every one of those things just complements each other very, very neatly. Talking about the upper, mids, and treble, yeah, basically the same. I don't really have any more comments about this. It's just me repeating at this point. Everything just sounds too realistic. Everything just sounds too accurate. It has enough body. And yeah, in terms of percussion, ride, cymbal, snares, all of those have, I would say the best description is from Edmund. He said that this thing has the most accurate roll-offs that he has heard from percussions ever. So extensions, roll-offs, all those are very, very accurate with the most natural and realistic timbre that he has heard so far. And with all that being said, let's go back to the main questions that we all want to know. Is this thing really worth $6,000 US? And also, who would actually benefit from getting this? Rossi&Wing, the philosophy of them actually started off with Zephon's idea of creating something that is more linked to his artistic side, where he tries to pay homage to everyone that is within the artistic realm, or in this case the music industry, to have a connection with his product. The reason the soundstage is being done to the fact where it's engineered to sound like an auditorium, an orchestral hall, is because he collaborated with specific musicians to recreate that level of reproducibility, that level of accuracy. And because of that, very specifically, it caters to orchestral pieces very, very well. But even though when I say that, I usually listen to hip hop, I usually listen to soul, jazz. Now, jazz specifically sounds very, very amazing on this. You can hear Snarky Puppy's drum breaks going ham, going crazy. Everything sounds very, very lively. Everything sounds very intense, but it still feels very laid back. You feel like you could just get lost in the sauce, basically. And with all that being said, who's this for? Basically anybody that enjoys music. So if you really had the chance to try this, please do so. And is this worth $6,000 US? All I could say is that NIAV, we've brought this over. And oh yeah, thank you to everybody who came to the booth at NIAV. We truly appreciate you and for all the feedback you guys have given. But going back to that, many people at NIAV have gave their thoughts. And I like the fact that a lot of them have the same opinion, saying that among all the Summit 5 that they've listened to, everything is very technical, but this is the only one that actually like tugs their heartstrings. This is the only one that invokes a certain level of emotion where they actually get lost in it, rather than just being very technical and very amusing. With all that being said, I'm gonna be honest, if I had that level of money and I already have no commitments, yeah, I would go for it. And with all that being said, thank you for watching this video. for all of the info that you want to find out about Rossi&Wing's first light, as well as the Luwa series as mentioned in the early parts of the video. You could just find it in the links in the description below. And for anybody in Malaysia right now, if you are interested in this pair, feel free to contact me through NOTBRAND's page so that we can get all of this sorted out, because mainly Rossi&Wing is operating in Taiwan. We are quite close to them. We could help you guys get your stuff. So again, thank you to everyone for watching this video. I'm gonna stop now. I ramble too much. New videos coming very soon. Have a good day.